Hello. As you can see, I'm in the dark, there's a candle lighting me, not the best lighting scenario, and we're getting quite a bit of noise. But what if I told you that we can actually go from a shot looking like this to cleaning it up like that? And so in this video, we're gonna cover the whole process of cleaning up clips in your edit that might have excessive noise. So this is gonna be super handy, and the results I actually think will surprise you. So let's take a look at that. This was shot over 7 years ago, and it had a lot of technical issues, especially when dealing with compression artifacts, heavy noise. This was very indie guerrilla style, so lighting was not ideal in a lot of the scenes. And so this tool actually today helped those shoots from 7 years ago actually be decent and presentable. So we're gonna be using AI to do this with a relatively new software from Topaz called Topaz Video Enhance AI. And I'm gonna just guide you through the whole process of what I did. So I'm very excited to share this with you, and hopefully you'll find a lot of use in this. All right, so inside of Premiere, the first step will be identifying the clips that have noise in your timeline and sending them to Adobe Media Encoder, or even just exporting them out from Premiere itself. So from here, the important thing is that we actually deactivate any color adjustments or any kind of change that we did in Premiere, so that we're just affecting the original clip. Now we're going to select our in and out points by hitting I on my keyboard and O on my keyboard. And then we're going to go under File, Export, and Export Media. So in here, we have this pop up with our export settings, and you can see here that we can change the format, and we can actually select TIFF. This is going to create an image sequence. And then we can also choose where we want to save it, as well as other settings here down below. Now, an important thing is the depth over here. You can go 8-bit, 16-bit, or 32-bit, depending on what kind of footage you're dealing with. And then we can just check use maximum quality. So we can decide where we want to output this, and then we can either hit on export or on Q, and hitting Q is going to send this to Adobe Media Encoder, which if you're dealing with multiple shots can be helpful in assigning the same settings. So once it loads up, you can see that we have our clip in here, and if we click on the settings, it's going to present us with a very similar pop-up, and we can set our TIFF sequence settings in here. So I'm going to save this, and to save it, I'm actually going to create a new folder so that this image sequence is contained in its own folder and not creating a mess in whichever other folder I'm selecting. And now we can click OK. So because we're in Media Encoder, we just go up to the top right here and we click on this play button, and that's going to actually start our encoding and our exporting of our image sequence. So if I go on that same folder, you can see that we have a bunch of images that make up each frame of this clip, which is exactly what we want. So now we can go into Video Enhance AI, and we can just simply go to Browse or even drag and drop, and we can go to that folder that we created. Select the option down here to be image files rather than video files, and then grab the first frame and last frame by holding Shift, which will select all your frames, and click Open. And now we have our clip inside of Video Enhance AI. Pretty simple. So you can see here in this portion, you can set your in and out points if you don't want to maybe analyze and export the entirety of this clip and maybe just a portion. So the main settings that you want to set up here is basically telling the AI model what kind of quality are we dealing with. Is it low? Is it just okay and medium? Or is this a professionally shot and high quality clip? Now the next thing is it progressive? Is it interlaced? Or are we dealing with a CG export, which might have some added aliasing issues, for example? And then you're going to tell what kind of treatment are we trying to do? What kind of video artifacts does the clip have? And then down here, you can finally see where you can pick the AI model. And you can see again, these pop-up windows are super helpful in kind of giving you an understanding of how the AI model was trained for those particular settings. Then finally down here, you can see output size. So you can actually upscale to, for example, as it's set here, 200%, the original size. I'm going to turn off grain. In my case, I know I'm going to be adding grain later. So I want the cleanest possible image from this part of the process. And then down here, you can select the output format that you want. And again, we want TIFF sequences, TIFF sequences, and you want to match also the bit depth. So if it's 8-bit, 16-bit, or 32-bit, then down here, we can select the output and create a new folder for our denoised TIFF sequence now. And we're going to click on Export Image Sequence. And then after that, we can hit Start Processing. And I love this this kind of comparison view, and we can literally live preview what the AI model is doing in each frame, and we can kind of move around, zoom in, and this is really nice to kind of like sit with this, especially for the first few tests, and really take a look at how the AI is behaving, and you know, how much detail it's actually maintaining, especially in tricky areas such as this hair or this detail in the shirt and all the creases in the shirt. And you can see that it's actually doing a pretty amazing job. And also the noise level is significantly cleaner, especially in the shadows. So back in Premiere, we're gonna go under File, Import, and we're gonna go to the folder that has our denoised image sequence. And you wanna make sure that you actually go to the first frame, not just any random frame or the last one. Make sure it's the first, and then under Options, make sure that image sequence is ticked and hit Import. Now, as most image sequences, when you import them, you want to right click and go under Modify and Interpret Footage. And you want to make sure that it's assuming the frame rate that you want. So in here, we're going to type in 24, try that out, hit Enter or click OK. And now if I drag the clip, this image sequence over our clip, we can see that it matches up, but not quite. There's a little gap. And this often happens, and it might happen to you, is if maybe the footage isn't really 24, but it's that 23.976 exact frame rate, which happens often. So now if we drag it back in, that looked huge for a second. Okay, there we go. It's the same size. So now a final thing that I like to do, and that I was doing a lot throughout the short film editing, is now that we have these two layers, the before and after, we can first of all scale it down to 50% since it upscaled it. So now we have in our timeline this sort of before and after, the original clip with the noise, and now the new clip that is denoised on top of it. Now if I zoom in here in my program monitor just to get a better view, you can see that I can toggle on and off the two layers to sort of get a before and after. We can see here in the hair, there's still quite a bit of detail, even in the fine hair, which is crazy. And now an advantage to having them stacked like this is that we can bring down the top layer's opacity to something like 80%, so that some of that original clip is still showing through, which could be nice, especially when having a completely sterile look isn't the priority. It's more about recovering some of that detail that might be lost with more aggressive denoising. And so that's a trick to be able to find that sort of sweet spot in between the two versions. And the nice thing is that there's a lot more obviously happening underneath the hood, but we're able to tweak just a few options and get very significant changes. So that's pretty exciting. And honestly, from the tests in this short film, and I really pushed this tool to its probably limits. And every time I was actually surprised, and I was shocked about how good of a job it was doing, you know, no matter what I was really throwing at it. And I was throwing at it a lot. All right. I hope you enjoyed to see this whole process. It saved me. I'm very excited to be sharing that short film with you guys very soon. Shot it over 7 years ago with absolutely no money in New York City. It was brutal, but I'm very proud of the end result, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So that's coming up soon. Subscribe and ring the bell to actually be notified of whenever that is released. Also, I do sell digital products, so if you like what I'm doing on this channel, you want to support me, that is the best way. And also you get to have some great assets that I personally use in all of my projects and that I've used in Supernova, the short film coming up. So check it out at KRISCOART'S.com/marketplace. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like if you did, share it with a friend, and I will see you in the next one.